It's still snowy here in Ottawa, but I don't care. It's time to get into the spring spirit and share with you my spring TBR. We are creeping closer to 15,000 subscribers on this channel. And I am doing a $150 Amazon gift card giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber, leave a comment on this video, and like this video. Stick around until the end of this video and I'm going to get into more detail about the giveaway itself and how you can win. Hello everyone, it is April and I am here to share with you all of the books that I would love to read this spring. I've got a really big stack here of 10 books that I would love to get to. The first book I want to share with you is a classic. I'm slightly terrified of it because it's big. You know how I am with big books. This is around 700 pages. Why did I choose this? It's Wives and Daughters by Elizabeth Gaskell. Now, I've heard a lot of wonderful things about this book. This would be my first Elizabeth Gaskell. Have you guys read her before? In this book, we follow Molly. Her father has been widowed but has decided to remarry, and he remarries a nasty piece of work. It sounds like that she is vain and manipulative. Not so good. But she does come along with a daughter and they become friends, and the daughter is quite glamorous and has a lot of like romantic affairs that Molly gets involved in. It sounds dramatic and fun, and there is something about spring that makes me want to read a classic. So I'd love to get to Wives and Daughters. The next book that I would love to read is The Exiles by Christina Baker Klein. This is a really interesting one. It takes place in the 19th century, and we follow a woman who became pregnant because of her employer's son. He, made love to her and just abandoned her after she became pregnant, and she was dismissed and ended up going into prison. Now, a lot of the prisoners at this particular prison end up being sent to Australia, and she knows on the voyage over, she's on a ship. When she's going over, she's going to be giving birth, and so it follows this woman as well as another younger girl who was also sent to prison. It doesn't sound like there's a good reason to send any of these women to prison, and it's about all of their journeys to Australia and what happens to them when they get there. It sounds incredible, and I've heard very good things, but not a lot of people talking about this one. I'd love to read it. Now, I do love to read a lot of historical fiction in the spring. There's something about it that just screams out to me, but I really love when I can read historical fiction with a mystery aspect to it as well. And so I'd love to read Palace of the Drowned by Christine Mangan. This is coming out in June, and this takes place in 1966, and we follow Frankie, who has recently been a very lucrative, incredibly sought after writer. She wrote a really big hit, and then after her big hit, all of the books that have come out since then haven't done quite as well. They haven't been quite as well received. And during the launch of her most recent book, she's been getting a lot of bad press. And at a particular event, she has a little meltdown. And it's a very public meltdown. And so she decides she's going to take a little breather and move to Venice for a little while. Unfortunately for her, she arrives in Venice just at the time of the flood. There was an actual flood that happened in Venice in 1966, and she's there for it, unfortunately. She's also there for Gilly, who ends up being her biggest fan and follows her around. And at first she doesn't mind, but over time she feels like there's just something off about Gilly. Christine Mangan writes very tense friendships, and I'm here for it. I'm so excited to read Palace of the Drowned. Next, I would love to get to Cher and Me and Major Whittlesey. This is by Kathleen Rooney, and this is a World War I historical fiction book, and we follow two main characters. One of them is a pigeon named Jeremy, and the other is Major Whittlesey. And it follows them during World War II. I think the pigeon is a carrier pigeon, and it tells their stories and how their stories interconnect. I think it sounds brilliant. I'm actually really surprised I haven't read this yet, so I'd love to get to this one. Next is a book that has had so much buzz and was a favorite of so many booktubers in 2020. This is The Bass Rock by Evie Wild. This follows three women in three different time periods. First, we follow a woman who's being accused of witchcraft and she has to flee from her home to try and save her life. Next is a woman who has moved and married. She's moved to a new place just after World War II, and she's trying to settle down but having a very hard time of it. And then finally, we follow a woman, I believe in the present day, who has moved into that same home that the World War II lady was living in. And there's a connection between them, and she starts going through some of that woman's possessions, and I think they might be related in some way. I've heard that it's wonderful and is an examination of how women have been vilified and also how men have tried to control women, and it just sounds incredible. So I'd love to read The Bass Rock. I'd also really love to read The Nature of Fragile Things by Susan Meissner. This takes place in 1906 on April 18th. There is a massive earthquake that rocks San Francisco. That actually did happen in history. And we follow a woman who has recently moved to San Francisco, and she ended up being matched with a man that she doesn't know well at all. It's like she's like a mail order bride, basically. And she moves to San Francisco, and it's an awkward relationship between the two of them. He has a 5-year-old daughter who is mute, and so she ends up connecting with her. And on the eve before this devastating earthquake happens, two women show up at her doorstep, and then they're thrown into this precarious, strange situation. It sounds incredible. I love Susan Meissner, so I know it's going to be a good one. Next, I'd also love to read Mexican Gothic. Now, I know that this is meant to be horror. It seems more mystery to me just based on the premise, but I guess it goes there. Mexican Gothic takes place in the 1950s in Mexico, and our protagonist is a socialite. And her cousin has moved away, has married a very wealthy man, and she writes to her. Her cousin writes to her this letter that sounds urgent, and she's basically saying, you need to help me, like I'm not in a good place. And so our socialite goes and is basically a reluctant hero. She steps up to the plate, and when she gets there, she does notice that the home and the people who live at the home are off. So many people have loved this book. I would love to get to this one too. Next up is a bit of a contemporary drama. This is What Alice Forgot by Leanne Moriarty. And this is about Alice, who is a 30-something-year-old woman, I believe. And she is at the gym and falls at the gym and hits her head. And when she wakes up, she can't remember the last 10 years. The last thing she remembers is that she was madly in love with her husband. They were pregnant with, I think, their first child. But in reality, she's like in the process of getting a divorce. She has several children, and it is about that story and what happened in those 10 years that ruined her life, basically, and changed her life in such a major way. It sounds like a lot of fun, and it's been on my TBR for so long. It's like high time that I get to that. You guys know that I absolutely fell in love with Bernardine Evaristo's writing. I read Mr. Loverman back in February, and it just blew me away. And I've had Girl, Woman, Other on my shelves for quite a while now as well, and I would really love to get to this. This is a huge favorite of so many people, like BookTube darling, I think. And this follows several Black women living in London and their various lives. I think there is some connection between them, and you find that out as you go along. But oh, I don't even know what to expect from this, but because it's Bernardina Versto, I just know it's going to be good. So I'd love to read this too. And last but not least is a bit of a more serious book, a little more of a serious read, but it just seems so important to me. This is Know My Name by Chanel Miller. Now, Chanel Miller was known as Emily Doe a few years ago when Brock Turner raped her and really got off scot-free, let's be honest. A lot of people came to his aid. They came to really defend him, saying, you know, here's this amazing swimmer. He's like a star athlete at a university that he was at, and he shouldn't have his life ruined because of this rape. Meanwhile, he assaulted someone, and Chanel Miller did come out with her story in this book and is telling us what her experience was like with not only the rape, but the ramifications of people coming to his rescue instead of hers. She is a brave woman. I admire her, and I really want to know her story. So I would love to read Know My Name as well. Let me know in the comments below, have you read any of these? I really hope that you guys have liked them if you have read them. I think this is a really good stack of books for spring. Also, let me know what you're planning to read this spring. I'd love to know, and I'll chat with you guys soon. Bye, everybody. All right, with 15,000 subscribers just around the corner, this is your chance to win a $150 Amazon gift card. It's in Canadian because I am Canadian. And I hope that one of you will be able to buy all sorts of lovely books from your wish list with it. Now, in order to win, you need to first be subscribed to this channel, like this video, and also leave a comment in the comments below. After we hit 15,000 subscribers, I am going to pick a random video, randomize the comments, and pick a winner. So the more videos you watch, the more comments you leave, the more chances that you are going to have to win. Good luck to all of my bookish friends out there.